Welcome to the prequel.
The prequels.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Misaligned Mayhem. Last time we were talking about the original trilogy, and we took an extended break because I wanted to watch the first 10 minutes of The Bad Batch just to get a general idea of what I'm getting into. And holy crap, that was a lot. That was a lot to take in with the first 10 minutes.
I told you it related to Rebels.
I'm like,
I
why
told
does this
you
relate to Rebels? And I'm watching this, I'm like, oh,
that's
wow.
that beginning part is the...
I'm like, wow, way to throw that at my face. Thanks.
Yeah.
You
remember the last thing? Remember when the Grand Inquisitor was talking to Kanan and it was like, what's the thing? What's your master's last word to you? And it was run.
Oh wow.
Run.
What a way to like
bring that to life.
Yeah, because
like I knew we were gonna have to relive Order 66. I just didn't realize we were gonna have to relive
his Order 66. I think that's fantastic. But so this discussion we'll get into is mostly on the prequels themselves, rather than, because I think we got into like Star Wars as a whole a little bit, but then we talked about talked very little about the sequels and a little bit about Clone Wars and Rebels. But now we could talk about prequels, because I feel like we only talked about the prequels in terms of Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith. But
yeah,
let us start
There's another
off.
movie there.
There's two other movies to talk about. Let's start with the first one, Phantom Menace.
So, like I said earlier, it's a political drama. That's what that movie is. It's a political drama. Does that make sense? It makes sense, right? It's a political drama. That's what that movie is about.
It makes sense. Yes, I agree.
Treaties and trade federations and committees and chancellors.
Attack of the Clones was a romance movie.
No, it wasn't. The whole romance part of Attack of the Clones.
That's half the movie, and the half of the movie I can't stand.
We don't have to talk.
We're gonna have to talk about it. But going off of Phantom Menace, we have it's a political dispute.
Well, it's a political drama, but like there's more, obviously more going on there.
Let us talk about what the movie did good. I'm not even gonna say what it did right. What did it do good?
So Dave Filoni explains this better than I could ever do. But Qui-Gon Jinn is one of the only Jedi in the Jedi Order that understands that the Jedi are supposed to be peacekeepers and guardians of the peace, and that you're supposed to be connected with the Force and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see throughout the course of the prequels how the Jedi Order isn't about that. It's about, keeping power, and at least the Jedi Council has always been about like keeping the power, and it's been sort of this hypocritical thing that's going on. But Qui-Gon has sort of gone away from that. He's been focused on, being connected with the living Force and all that, garbage, right?
Uh-huh.
And so Qui-Gon, more so than Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan kind of gets it, but doesn't really. But Qui-Gon understands this, and he knows that if Anakin were to ever have a chance at being a good Jedi, he's the one that has to train him. So that's sort of why it's called Duel of the Fates, is because if Obi-Wan or if Qui-Gon wins and is able to, go on and train Anakin, he basically trains him to be understanding that the Jedi Order isn't always right and the Jedi Council isn't always on the right side of things. And basically it would have changed the entire course of the rest of the Star Wars universe, right? Whereas if Darth Maul wins and defeats Qui-Gon, the fate of Anakin is basically sealed in being Darth Vader and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's called Duel of the Fates. That's why the song is called Duel of the Fates, and that's why that whole scene is called Duel of the Fates, is because they're basically dueling for the fate of Anakin Skywalker.
Right. And I love how that develops later as sort of its own arc, where it's just Darth Maul just has this just this god awful obsession with revenge
Obi-Wan.
for Obi-Wan. And it's like, I feel like he takes his time trying to kill him to the point where I want to talk about how beautiful that scene is because of how...
In Rebels?
Yeah, in Rebels. So, but we'll get to that. I want to talk about it because I feel like talking about the Phantom Menace will be like, I want to talk about Darth Maul as a character. But...
We'll do that in the Clone Wars.
So
we'll talk about that in
definitely
the Clone Wars.
That concept of like Qui-Gon understood, as Ahsoka did, that there was hypocrisy in the Jedi Order, but obviously there's not really anything you can do about it. But
for Qui-Gon was actually offered a spot on the council and he refused because he didn't want to be a part of that.
Right. So what I'm thinking of, if another thing that it did right, obviously visual effects were becoming a interesting standard because this was what 1998 when this movie came out. So
struggling. It was a struggle watching it. I watched it again yesterday, like 2 days ago. Yesterday,
watching it now. Obviously, there's some because like it's not like you can forgive it like you can with the original trilogy because of the way it did its visual effects. But you have to admit that obviously no one had ever done a fully like CGI character, like fully main CGI character like Jar Jar Binks. Right. As annoying as he was, as most people just dislike the character, he was a visual effects milestone. Because you had a guy in a suit obviously on the set and they just did his whole features and all that stuff. But I don't want to go into what's useless and wrong about the movie, like parts of the movie. Another good thing, obviously, the acrobatics of the lightsaber fight between the two and Darth Maul, great. I'm trying to think about what else is great about that movie, but
what else is great about it? I think, honestly,
it's so hard to find something.
I mean, obviously, Darth Maul should have been better, but was like good enough to do what he did. He was such
the power of the Star Wars fan base is that they can literally bring a character back to life. You have Darth Maul. They brought him back in Clone Wars and in Rebels. He was in Solo for a brief moment. And then it's like, oh, I bet you can't do this to another character. Bam! They bring in Boba Fett. You thought he was dead, but nope. He was a key factor in the season of The Mandalorian. And now he gets his own freaking show. Like, come on. You know what? Okay, I swear they're going to think that they can bring back Iron Man, but no.
No. They better not.
No.
That's a different discussion.
This is a different discussion.
We can talk about that in fan base.
In fan bases. The Marvel fan base is just like, we want our Iron Man back. It's like, no, you don't.
No.
You think you do, but you don't.
Fine.
But what am I saying? Obviously, the power of bringing characters back. Obviously, Star Wars has a way of doing that. And I think they do it in a pretty good way. I think the way they brought Darth Maul back was interesting because they gave it backstory. Like, they gave his people of Dathomir a backstory. You have the introduction of Ventress, who dude. The whole, because like you don't even think that they're going to bring Darth Maul back, but they make this connection in saying that Ventress is a Night Sister. Night Sisters are from the planet Dathomir. They were the female witches of Dathomir. Dathomir, the males were what Darth Maul's kind looked like. Darth Maul Darth Maul didn't have a brother. He just had someone that was super buff and whatever, and he became the new warrior, and then he was sought out to go and find the remains of Darth Maul. The only thing that's been driving Darth Maul up until this point is his obsession with his obsession with Kenobi and him drawing power from the dark side to keep him alive. And then obviously they bring him back to the Night Sisters. The Night Sisters get his story straight. We can talk about his story in Clone Wars, but I'm going to skip all of that. even though it's important, like how he gets the Darksaber and then all the whole Darksaber stuff. But going into Maul in Rebels, his only intention was to get the Sith holocron and the Jedi holocron, put them together, only to find and figure out if Obi-Wan is still alive. He is alive. Now he just needs to figure out where he is. And obviously he's been using Ezra up to this point just to find Obi-Wan.
Right.
He finds him. Darth Maul's one and only purpose is to completely torment Obi-Wan. He kills probably the love of his life. He
does kill. Not probably. He does.
He does. He kills the love of Obi-Wan's life, which, you know, he's not allowed to admit. But you know. I know. But
if it were up to me,
I would have left the Jedi Order long ago.
If you gave me if you had given me your word, I would have left the Jedi Order.
Oh my god.
Such a tragedy. Anyway.
Yeah, but we get to Rebels where it's like Darth Maul has the only will to live he has right now is not that he's drawing any power from the dark side. The only act that he has left to do to fulfill his life is to kill Obi-Wan. So you wonder, I feel like there are people out there who were disappointed by that fight. They wanted to see a full-on fight between an older, wiser Obi-Wan and a deprived, like,
you know why that fight is actually like super awesome, right?
Let me okay, there are two reasons why that fight is awesome. Okay, first of all, the moves set in motion are the exact same as how Darth Maul killed Qui-Gon. But Obi-Wan did one move differently and sliced his lightsaber in half. But it's not like Obi-Wan stabbed him or anything. Why did he die? I want to say the reason he died was he had just lost the will to live. Yeah. He knew in that moment he was defeated. He was defeated by Obi-Wan. He knew that, he surpassed his master.
Mm-hmm.
He knew that
because of all the training.
Yes, exactly. If in the Obi-Wan show they end up like showing that training, and then I want them to end the show with that. I mean, maybe not. I feel like they'll take it away from Rebels a little bit if they try and do that, but if they do that, I would be content. But as I was saying, that moment there is like Darth Maul loses the will to live because he's dedicated the rest of his life in killing Obi-Wan. And in that moment of defeat, he realizes, I can't defeat him.
Yeah.
I wasted my efforts, my resources, my entire life trying to find this man. He defeats me in like 3 moves and he just falls and dies with wondering, tell me, is he the chosen one? And here's the thing that's interesting about that, because obviously George Lucas said himself that Anakin Skywalker is the chosen one. He does bring balance to the Force, even if it doesn't seem like he did. He does, because he's the one to defeat Palpatine. And obviously Luke Skywalker's story in all of this is that he could have had the same fate as his father, but he didn't.
Yes.
And so Darth Vader is the chosen one, and that's what the movies are about. It's his rise as a Jedi, fall to the dark side, and his redemption, which is why I think the sequels are the dumbest addition to this, because they completely make it seem like none of this mattered, because they just brought Palpatine back like it was nothing. And we'll get more to that when we get to the sequels. But to finish what I was talking about, in terms, what were they talking about? So I don't know who was talking about this. It was either Dave Filoni or George Lucas or some guy who did like an analysis of this. Kind of like I was like, oh yeah, I bet it was Darth Maul who lost the will to live. But I might make this a TikTok, to be completely honest. One of those like cool podcast TikToks.
Yeah.
I think that would be cool. But what am I saying? I'm saying they were talking about how when Maul says, "Tell me, is he the chosen one?" There is one driving factor that is keeping Obi-Wan going, and that is that Luke is the new chosen one.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't. I don't think he feels that it's true. Because in all reality, obviously we know that Anakin was the chosen one because he is the one to defeat Palpatine in the end, bring balance to the Force, etc. But Obi-Wan doesn't know that. So his only hope is within a farm boy who
he thinks that it's Luke.
He thinks that is Luke. So obviously he's there telling Maul that I truly believe that Luke Skywalker is the chosen one because I have to believe that. Because if I don't, then what else is there for? Just let the Jedi end. Just there's no reason to keep on going because then I have no reason. Because that was when he was even it's like Luke refused to fight his father in Return of the Jedi, and then Obi-Wan was just like, then the Empire's already won.
So you know how Luke, takes out his lightsaber and goes to strike down the Emperor?
Yeah.
Yes. Darth Vader stops him.
Vader saves Luke
from joining the dark side.
Because that's the trap, though. And that, I think, was poorly done in Rise of Skywalker. Because what had happened... Because if you think about the prequels, Mace Windu is going to strike Palpatine down. If he had done that, do you think Mace Windu would have been the one to turn in that moment? Exactly.
Because he was teetering on anger. Like if you watch like I said, if you watch the Clone
Wars,
going
to strike him down.
He was
without
going
hesitation.
To kill him.
Right.
Out of anger, out of hate, instead of, and that's why.
But
yeah,
that makes you think: is Anakin is Anakin preventing Mace Windu from turning like that? Is he doing that to prevent him from dying, or is he doing that because he's obviously he's unsure about what's going to happen next? So it's like he obviously has to make a choice.
So I think what could have happened if Anakin basically. That's a good question.
I'm like, if you think about it, that theory where that idea where it's like, okay, in Rise of Skywalker, obviously the ritual is that Rey has to strike down Palpatine in order for Palpatine to basically put his form into a new form of the same bloodline, clone bloodline, whatever that is. If something has to be explained outside of a movie, then don't bother making it a concept if it has to be explained elsewhere.
Well, that's just another problem.
I feel like I just want to talk about the sequels at this point because now I'm heated. Now I'm like, I want it. I know.
You gotta save it.
But that's the point where it's like, okay, Darth Vader's preventing Luke from that exact moment. So is obviously you don't feel that Anakin has any sincerity towards Mace Windu because obviously it's Mace Windu that he doesn't truly like because it's Mace Windu who's aggravating him.
So I think when it comes to that scene, the Revenge of the Sith scene, Anakin has already been teetering on the side of can you trust the Jedi Council? And when he sees Mace Windu go to this place where he's going to kill somebody, he realizes, okay, I cannot support the Jedi Council anymore, and he joins the side of the one who has been manipulating him and sort of trying to drawing him in as a sort of secondary apprentice. That he goes to his aid because he has nothing else left. Because if he goes back to the Jedi Council after essentially aiding in Mace Windu's killing, they're gonna do the exact same thing that they did to Ahsoka, where they draw and quarter him and basically make him basically just end him.
I think you can see throughout the what is it? I think you can see that throughout the Clone Wars, Anakin doesn't hesitate when it comes to killing. He's killed.
He's all about. He's a very ends justify the means kind of character.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like a lot of people are like that. Like they have that mentality, but like them as a person can't really like. Because what if the situation was different? Was Yoda out to actually kill Palpatine? That's the thing. That's the trap that Palpatine has, is that if anyone strikes him down, I don't know if that's just a catch though, or is that just something that Rise of Skywalker made a thing, or is this like if they killed Palpatine, are they truly?
So how it becomes a trap is if you kill him out of hate. That's what makes you turn to the dark side. If you kill him out of hate and out of anger.
Now, listen.
So I think with Yoda, he is more mindful about that. So he's doing it to protect the Republic rather than out of hate and anger. But you think about it,
like if Obi-Wan were to fight him, he is out of pure like dread, not dread in terms of like his apprentice has turned to the dark side. So if he gets like if Obi-Wan was to fight Palpatine, he would have been too heated in the battle. He would have had so much hate towards Palpatine for turning his own Padawan against him. Yoda, obviously, yes, he's more mindful, and I feel like he's more at ease, but he was there to fight Palpatine. He failed. Like, his motive was obviously all the Jedi have died. All the Jedi have just completely disappeared. And his driving like motivation and like what's his motive, like what is he's obviously going there to do something. If he's gonna kill him purely out of justice, then I mean I don't know, because
I think he was trying to do what Mace Windu failed to do and bring him in peacefully.
With Mace Windu, the reason he has the purple lightsaber is because he draws power from both sides of the Force. He's not the middle. He is the light side, but he draws power from the dark side in terms of combat. He's an aggressive fighter.
Yeah.
He uses the dark side to fight, but not in terms of wisdom.
Right.
Which is why his lightsaber is purple. That's the description of it, which is like the blue stands for nobility, green is more for wisdom, red is obviously for evil, purple draws from both sides, white is neutral, that kind of stuff, right? Yellow is more like, I don't remember how they described yellow. I think it was more or less like
you're more of a guard. I think it's more of you're like a guard of the Force.
Redemption, I don't know. Because Rey has the yellow lightsaber now. Like, yeah, what's the yellow lightsaber mean? But Mace Windu, obviously already, in terms of combat, he already has a lot of hate when he fights anything, really. That doesn't make him a Sith, though. But if he's to strike another Sith down... Because, like, Anakin didn't kill Count Dooku out of hate. Did he? He did it out of pure pressure.
Anakin did it out of... so he didn't do it out of hate.
He didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
But he did it because Palpatine was just like, do it. Do it.
I think so. So you know how in Rogue One, I don't remember what the guy's name is. I'm one with the Force with me. The monk guy. Yeah. He says that the dark side moves around a creature that is about to kill. So I think the dark side is involved in anything that involves killing. But as we know, killing is, especially in nature, is a natural thing. Like, we have to kill animals to eat. We have to kill other animals, have to kill other animals to eat. So it's a survival thing that we have to do. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to kill. So that leads me to believe that the dark side isn't bad. It's not bad. It's just if it's used wrong, it obviously is used for evil. It can be used for evil, and it's mostly used for evil.
Yeah.
But it's natural to have the dark side involved in things that happen in the universe. Like obviously death is, you know, dark side, you know, killing is dark side, stuff like that. I guess if that makes sense.
It does make sense.
It doesn't?
No, it does. No, it does make sense. Sorry, I was thinking about something else. I was listening to you, but I got distracted by something else. But yeah. But you think about what was introduced in the Clone Wars, which was I think it's Ashlyn and Bogan, which was the light and the dark, and then you have the guy in the middle. The chosen one arc. Like the 3-episode thing in the Clone Wars where Anakin is the chosen one. He will bring balance to the Force. So it's obviously he has so much power that he can control both the light and the dark. And obviously he's also an aggressive fighter. Mm-hmm. And you see that. And what is it? Where was I going with this? There was the point where he finds out the actual person who framed Ahsoka, and you see how aggressive he gets when he's fighting her.
Yeah.
What's her name again?
I don't remember. Luminar's apprentice.
Yes, it was her.
Padawan.
Yeah, I know who it is. I can think of her in my head, and I can think about the whole scene and see that one season of Clone Wars where it's Yoda.
Season 5.
No, the last season.
Season 6. Yeah.
Technically, the last season before the final season.
Yeah.
Which was season 6, which is where Yoda talked to Darth Bane, who created the rule of 2, which is a master and his apprentice. No more, no less. And funny enough, he was voiced by Mark Hamill.
Interesting.
Which I'm like, that's interesting. It's like, interesting. So, yeah, you have Mark Hamill. Okay, Mark Hamill has nothing to do with where I was going with this. I just love Mark Hamill. Okay, he's Luke Skywalker, but he also does Star Wars things, other Star Wars things, in other forms of media. But yeah, they bring him up. Yoda talks to him, and Yoda sees visions of, I don't know, what was the whole point of that again? I don't remember. What was he trying to do? What was he trying to do?
Who was what?
Yoda. What was Yoda trying to do when he was put into that vision of the dark side? Because he was put under, wasn't he? He was put under something just to figure out the secrets of the dark side.
I don't remember, actually. I don't remember a lot of that story arc.
Because it was just him, and then he saw a vision of what today would have looked like if the Clone Wars didn't happen and Dooku hadn't turned to the dark side, and if Qui-Gon didn't die. But he's like, this is all fake. This is all false. This is just a clever ruse to get into my Jedi mind. But I don't know. That all stuff is weird because none of it was really relevant towards the end, because the only thing they were trying to do with the final season was trying to figure out, okay, how do we wrap this up so it's relevant to the Order 66?
Yeah.
And it was definitely mostly... Do you think the Clone Wars was Ahsoka's story? Or... I know it was episodic for a majority of it, but then once it started getting more... They just added random arcs over and over,
So
you had the Maul arc, you had the Siege of Mandalore, and...
I don't think it was Ahsoka's story. It was definitely... it was about the Clone Wars, because Ahsoka wasn't even in season 6, and she was kind of, I feel like it was only, I guess it was a way to, the ending of season 7 was a way to explain what happens to her and Rex, because those were the only characters that were only in Clone Wars at that time. Because all the other characters, like Obi-Wan and Yoda, we already know what happens to them. All the other Jedi, they all die. Mm-hmm. So that was a way for them to explain what happens to them so that you can see them in other shows and stuff. So mm-hmm. I don't think it was about her, per se.
It definitely brought...
But it was... Yeah.
Because, I know we skipped over the entire second movie as a whole. Which, we'll get my feelings on that, hopefully, towards the end. But, in terms of, what is it? because the final season was like, obviously it ends up with Rex and Ahsoka surviving Order 66. Rex doesn't have the chip in his head, and Ahsoka is just out there now until you find her again in Rebels, where she's working with the rebellion, which is yay. where she's a non-Jedi. I am correct Jedi, but it's weird because you think about how everything could have changed in that moment between Ahsoka and Darth Maul, where Ahsoka would have joined with Maul to figure out the secret and defeat Darth Sidious once and for all. If it had not been for the fact that Ahsoka had asked, "What do you want with Anakin Skywalker?" As soon as she asked that, she had lost all faith in what Maul had said and was like, "Oh, now everything you had just said is a lie because there's no way Anakin would have been the reason for all of this, the reason for the fall of the Jedi." Now it's like, okay, so now you have brought it to the attention where it's like, okay, there was a chance, a moment for Ahsoka to change the course of how everything went down. But it was all because, was it Maul's fault for mentioning why he wanted Skywalker? No, he never mentioned it to her. It was somebody else. I remember rewatching those 4 episodes.
It's the Prime Minister.
Yes, he's like some guy named Skywalker. And it's like, what do you want with Anakin Skywalker? And it's like, so it wasn't even his fault. He was just a bad timing. It was just some loose end didn't get cut, and some loose ends just like, could have. So you think about that, and it's like, okay, and that's the thing about all of these shows. As I said, these don't need to happen. In fact, if these didn't happen, then where would we be? We would just be watching the movies. We would just be fans of the movies, and then like not really think much of it. But obviously, as you said, these shows add depth to these characters, to the story arcs,
and
exactly.
Like you kind of get the idea in the movies that Anakin and Obi-Wan were brothers, but in the movies it's more so this Padawan,
like master and his apprentice,
master and apprentice relationship. But in the Clone Wars, you really get to see why they consider each other brothers rather than just apprentices.
And that's the thing, though. It's like with the movies, you don't really like feel anything for the here's the thing with the clones, because if we get to Attack of the Clones, obviously you don't feel anything towards them. They're clones of a bounty hunter. They're clones of a Boba Fett, clones of Jango Fett, and then the creation. That's such an interesting backstory, I think, because if you think about it, it's like you have such an overrated character for no reason. He was just in a couple of scenes. He was like a badass for like 2 seconds, and then dies, and just completely. And then obviously they're like, oh, what if we gave him a backstory in the prequels where his dad is the source of all the clones. He's the father of all these, but he decides to keep a clone for himself that ages normally,
becomes Boba Fett.
And it's like, oh, what if we gave Boba Fett even more of a backstory by creating an entire planet and religion based off of him called Mandalore? It's like now Boba Fett is considered a Mandalorian, kind of, but
I don't know how that will work out. We kind of get that he's a Mandalorian from The Mandalorian, but they don't really explain it. It's not very explicit if he was a foundling, or if he was like actually one of the houses in Mandalore. So I don't know,
something like that. But that's the thing. You look at it, and then you're like, oh, all these clones are all the same. So it's like, okay, these obviously are just they're all just the same, and they don't really have any personality outside of they're clones, and they look like stormtroopers, and then they progressively look more and more like stormtroopers. So in the movies, you don't feel anything towards these clones because they're just the prequels versions of they're basically they end up becoming the stormtroopers. The droids are the whatevers, but like the clones are obviously the stormtroopers. So you don't really have an attachment towards any of the clones, not even towards Cody, because even the one that shot down Obi-Wan, you don't really care about him because he's just another clone who has like a couple lines of dialogue.
Right.
So then,
and you got the Clone Wars that gives.
Then the Clone Wars makes it so that the clones actually the clones have personality. They give the clones personality.
Yeah.
And then the connection with the Jedi and the clones themselves, like, increase that personality. You have Plo Koon with his clones. It's like, we're just clones, and
to me,
it's like, not to me. And it's like, you see these connections with the Jedi and their clones, which is why Order 66 in the movie now has such an impact, because you've seen these connections happen
when you
in
see
action.
Plo Koon gets shot down by the very clones that he said he cared about.
The very clones that he made sure were kept alive. And it's just like, that's why it was so, like, that's why it was more impactful. If you had watched these shows, that's why people like the movie now. You can, regardless of what people thought of the movie then, what people think of the movie now is like completely different.
Yeah.
Because there's the difference between someone who just watched the movie in terms of watching the movies just strictly, and then there's the person who watched the movie, then watched the Clone Wars, then rewatched the movie, and is now like, oh, I'm hooked. This is a great movie. This is basically new added content. Which is why I think the third one aged well, because of stuff. Basically, let's just say all of the prequels are different bottles of wine. They're all the same bottle of wine. They all taste terrible. But here's the thing. With Revenge of the Sith, you gave it cheese, you gave it chocolates, you gave it roses. You gave that bottle of wine so much. You basically covered that bottle of wine with better stuff for it, which made the wine taste better in a sense.
Yep. You
gave it a baguette. It doesn't matter. But all these other bottles, they just stay the same. Okay, maybe you added a little thing of cheese next to Attack of the Clones because of the clones themselves, but that's really it. There was nothing more about, because like with Phantom Menace, it just doesn't. There's only one great thing about it, and that's the end.
Yeah.
Everything, the pod racing I felt was pointless. It was just dragged on. Drag racing. But it was just a sequence that I'm like, okay, they're dragging this whole plot up. And it's just like, obviously this is a scene to see if Anakin proves himself a worthy foe. Even as a kid who's doing a very dangerous thing, doing this race, and freeing himself from slavery and giving him more of a reason to turn to the dark side is losing his mother. So I guess giving him that kind of depth makes sense. But then you kind of just kill it off in the second movie where he just goes all dark and kills all the Tusken Raiders he could find.
Right.
And, that's another path. But there are better love stories than Padme and Anakin. I'm sorry. Princess Leia and Han Solo had a better one. It was the seemingly innocent princess who has some badass moments with the flyboy ego, like oh yeah, I know I'm attractive. I'm a scoundrel. It's like it's
scruffy looking.
It's the soft with the scoundrel, basically. And it's like, bro, this is so well written to the point where it's like
the Lady and the Tramp,
and all the girls' pants just drop. My pants dropped.
Our pants dropped.
Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher making out in the maintenance room. But that's what I'm saying. It's like, obviously there are good ways to write this, but the way it was written was like a cheesy love story where it's like, I have these feelings for you, Padme.
I just killed all the women and children too.
They're like animals, Annie. So I slaughtered them like animals. I hate them.
Oh, Annie, I love you. Like what?
I'm gonna
Doesn't make any
stare
sense.
at. I'm gonna
Oh
stare at.
yeah, he's a killer. Sheesh.
Sheesh. He killed children. Sheesh.
Sheesh.
Is he gonna get me pregnant? Sheesh.
Sheesh.
But that's my entire, like, people were like, oh, I think the second movie really aged well with the Clone Wars. It's like, no, Revenge of the Sith aged well. Clone Wars did not give, because you cannot rewrite the wrongs of that movie. Because Obi-Wan's story was more interesting than the entire rest of that movie. If you took, here's the thing, I would like that movie if they had completely rewritten how they did the love story between Anakin and Padme to the point where it's forbidden love. But it was such a Twilight thing to do. Like, the way it was written was such a Twilight thing.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and it gets everywhere.
Forbidden love. She's a politician and I'm a Jedi. We can never be. I'm like, that Obi-Wan and Satine's forbidden love story was so much better because they couldn't be together. They refused, like, Obi-Wan refused because he was so dedicated to the Jedi Order, even though Satine was just like, no, I love you. But, like, that tragedy. That's what made it good. I'm Tragic sorry. Love. She needed to die to make that love story good. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to say it. That needed to happen. It's so controversial. Right, it's probably so controversial to say that she needed to die to make that love story good, but it was so good. And it was ironic because the person he cut in half ended up being the one to kill her.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, bro, karma.
I feel like
that's the worst kind of karma.
I don't understand. I don't understand why Kenobi needed, or why Darth Maul needed to get so much revenge on Kenobi.
He was
what did he do? He chopped him in half.
He was doing it so slowly, but
he killed his master and he killed his one true love. That I feel like that's revenge enough.
Right. And here's the thing. He was obviously, it wasn't until later where he just realized that, yes, I have just been a pawn in all that. I feel like towards the end of Clone Wars, his head twisted from, I'm going to stay away from Obi-Wan for a bit, even though he really wanted Obi-Wan and Anakin to come and fight him, and he kills Anakin and prevents everything from happening. But his intentions towards the end weren't to kill Obi-Wan in that sense. He was trying his absolute hardest to prevent the galaxy from an absolute devastation, which is like, okay,
right.
It's annoying how he was like trying to constantly get revenge on Obi-Wan by absolutely making him suffer, but in the end, obviously, he had one other goal, and that was to prevent, and that didn't happen because screwed him over. He goes off into the galaxy on his own. I don't know where he goes afterwards. Probably to find the Sith holocron that he stays there for years. But you get what I'm saying, though. Obviously, it's like he had this obsession with Obi-Wan. But then towards the end, he's like, oh, yeah. I need to prevent this from happening, and then I'll get back to you. But you have to wonder, it's why go through the trouble of slowly putting Obi-Wan through so much turmoil only to just completely get just to lose the will to live in the end. That's the thing, though. He did all of this and it meant nothing.
Right.
He's basically Joker to Batman. Joker tries his absolute best to make Batman absolutely lose his marbles by taking everything away from him, he even tried doing that. That's the thing, though. And now he's trying to do this to Obi-Wan, but Obi-Wan stays firm to his beliefs, and he doesn't lose in the end. I think that's why that's why Obi-Wan is such a great character.
So good.
Yeah, but if you haven't been able to notice, I talked about how I don't like Attack of the Clones, and I hate it worse than Last Jedi. And here's the thing, I like. Oh, okay. That's the thing. Maybe that should be the title of this. That should be the title of the sequel episode. Is Last Jedi not bad?
I don't think the Last Jedi isn't that bad.
It's
It's not
not
as bad
okay.
as Rise
Okay,
of Skywalker.
I'll get to. I don't know. I don't know how long it's been because I know we went over in the last episode, and I know I took a 10-minute break to watch the first 10 minutes of the episode of Bad Batch. But
We're about that time.
are we about that time? Okay. Do we want to wrap up on anything with the prequels? Because I know,
or at least Revenge of the Sith did.
if I were to, it's so hard to rank, Phantom Menace, because you can't just rely on one scene, one moment in the movie to carry the entire rest of the movie.
Right.
Attack of the Clones had more scenes that made it redeemable in terms of like
Overall plot.
more of plot. There was a plot there, but here's the problem. Half of that movie was unbearable to watch.
Correct.
There was nothing that truly turned me off in Phantom Menace to keep me from watching it, because I'll watch it and I won't have a huge issue with it. There will be some annoyances that I have, but I'll be watching it. I'll be like, okay, I can watch this. I can't sit through a 2-hour sitting of watching Attack of the Clones. I just can't. My body won't let me.
He's about to say I hate sand. I gotta get out of here. I gotta go.
And then Revenge of the Sith is obviously like driven because it has such great moments throughout the entire movie.
Oh yes. Yes.
Even if like there are some like very uncomfortable moments with Anakin, that's really it. They basically improved upon the third movie was like a godsend because they improved upon the flaws of Anakin's character in Attack of the Clones.
Right.
And it's like it's weird how like it's funny. Actually, it's funny how Anakin's character didn't change from the first movie to the second movie.
Yeah.
He's a child then, he's a child now, and then he's still kind of a child, but it's outrageous. It's unfair. How could I be a member of the council and not be a master? But I don't know. Well, it's just I don't know. It's whether it's like, do I watch a movie that has no plot or do I watch a movie that I can't bear to watch half of it? That's the thing though. Which one's the better movie? Which one would you want to watch?
Phantom Menace. I think I'd rather watch Phantom Menace.
That's the thing. I only want to watch that movie till the end.
I think
nothing happens until that moment.
I don't know. I think the pod racing's kind of cool.
I'm not saying it's not cool. It just drags on for way too long.
It's
like a filler episode.
Yeah.
Same with, and then they have all the politics, and you have the Gungan thing, and then you have the whatever. I mean, the music like hits, but you have Duel of Fates. You have the droid march music when they come out of the But yeah, that I think is where we'll leave it, saying that Revenge of the Sith aged really well with the addition of Clone Wars, whereas the other movies just kind of just sit there now, not as well talked about anymore, because they're just not good movies.
Fair enough.
Like, as a Star Wars fan, I'll watch them once in a while. If I want to say, hey, I want to watch all 9 movies in sequence, then I will have to sit myself through and watch Attack of the Clones. So, yeah. So on that note, obviously we had strong feelings about the prequels, but not so much so that it was negative. There was a lot of negative things towards the first 2 movies, but we talked a lot about Darth Maul as a character and his arc with Obi-Wan. But we also talked about Revenge of the Sith and the Clone Wars, big impact that had. So, to set up next episode, we're going to be talking about the sequels. And that, honestly, all I got to say is look forward to that, because that is going to be a very, very, very interesting discussion. So stay tuned for our sequel discussion. And I will catch you all next time on that episode.